call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton? Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes. Next item, moment of silence, will be led by Vice President Cheryl Kelly.
As we begin this meeting, let us pause for a 60-second moment of silence to reflect, meditate, pray, or engage in any other silent activity.
Thank you. Next item will be the pledge. It'll be led by the Vice President Cheryl Kelly.
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item, formal adoption of the agenda. Any questions?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
You got a voting button?
Do we have any votes?
No.
No.
There we go. Thank you.
Sorry.
Item 5.
Hold on just a minute. I don't think I've
Oh, you have it.
Can I go
haven't
back?
voted here. I need to find it. Okay, I am unable to locate my voting.
At the top?
I know it's at the top, but it's not anywhere to be found. Could you?
We're going to try to pull it back.
Okay.
There it is.
Okay. Well, I still am having problems.
There's no button to vote.
Sync.
If you'll give us your manual.
Yeah, just do manual.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. Next item will be adoption of the board minutes from November the 11th.
Move approval of the November 11th, 2017 regular board meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Abstain.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes. Next item, summary and awards. Mr. Dell.
Cheryl still can't vote.
It is my honor to be here tonight to introduce. My honor to introduce and to be the first to congratulate Mr. Davis and the Pride Drum Majors on their accomplishments this last season. And Mr. Davis is here to tell us about that.
Hi, good evening. Here with the 4 Pride Drum Majors from this year. This is Camden Miner, Waylon Phipps, Maddie Holloman, and Tad Berryhill, and did a great job of serving our as the head of our leadership team and our Pride Drum Majors. The Pride had just another fantastic season. We As far as accomplishments, at the OBA State Marching Band Championship, the Pride won their 16th consecutive OBA State Marching Championship and our 25th overall since 1980, and we are certainly very proud of that event. At the St. Louis Bands of America Super Regional, the Pride was the Super Regional champion, as well as champion for their classification, and I think the Pride has won that championship each year they've attended since, I believe, 2009, if memory serves correct. And we finished our season at Indianapolis at the BOA Grand National Championships. 100 bands from across America, from Alaska, as well as even Hawaii was attended this year. And 100 bands are whittled down to the 30 national semifinalists, which the Pride and 2 other Oklahoma bands made that cut. And in the national finals, which is the top 12 in America, the Pride was in the top 12, winning the High Music trophy, sharing that with the champion from Carmel, Indiana, and we finished 2nd place overall with a score of 97.5, about half a point away from the championship. So just an incredible season as well. In interviews and such this year, I've mentioned quite often that the kids know, they hear this from me quite often, that I care a lot about how they march and how they play, but I care far more about how they carry themselves and how they represent our community and our high school. And with the ups and downs that we certainly had this year, I think that this year exemplifies their character more than anything else with Pride this year. So on behalf of that, I'd like to present our drum majors, and if you have any questions, be glad to answer.
Mr. Davis?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis, I know you talk a lot about our community and certainly those band parents and the students who participate in the program, but we have a long history of very committed parents who are part of the band program and who have been for a long, long time, and that is really in its essence why the band program is so successful. There is support not only from the parents, but certainly from you and those who work to direct the band as well. I want to thank you certainly for your commitment to the band, but also in representing our community and representing the community in the manner that you do each and every year. So thank you to you, thank you to each person that you work with the band, and thank you to the students and those that participate and certainly make us proud in the Broken Arrow community.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly.
Thank you.
And I would just like to echo that. You know, as not only the superintendent, I'm very blessed to also have a child in Pride. And what I can tell you from a parent's perspective is not only do you, young ladies and gentlemen, exhibit excellence in your craft, but the level of dignity and character that you exhibit is just phenomenal. I'm stopped all the time, all over the United States, to talk about, yes, the excellence in our band, but what's more is the way our students are so incredibly supportive of other bands, and that they will go above and beyond to support other students across the United States, and for that I am incredibly grateful and proud of you.
Congratulations. Great job, guys.
Great job.
Yes.
I'll let them do it. Congratulations, you.
Congratulations.
Great job. Thank you for your leadership.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Let's do one more. 1, 2, 3. Good job.
Great job. Okay, next item number 7, Dr. Dunlop.
Okay, yes. So this is an item that we've added recently. You know, especially in these tough budget times, it seems like we're having to do more and more and more to support our schools in areas that our state budget used to help us with. So I have to compliment our teachers and faculty and the way they are working so hard to find external funds to fill that gap that we have in funding. And with that, we have to thank specifically the Assistance League of Tulsa and the Betty Bradstreet Assistance Fund. The following teachers have received awards from one of those. So we've got Shelley Olds at CLI, or Country Lane Intermediate, $2,300 roughly. Katie Cook at Leisure Park, $600. Catalina Simmons at Sequoia and Oneida Ridge, $600. Ginger Ortega at Spring Creek, $644. Vonna Stout, Mr. Stout's wife, at Timber Ridge, $1,700 roughly. Jennifer Deal at the high school, $600. Jennifer Brown at the high school, $900. Again, these teachers are taking time out of their already busy day and after hours to seek funding, and for that we compliment them and truly appreciate our partners, external partners, for providing that extra funding.
It's wonderful, close to $10,000. It's nice. Next item, item number 8, Mr. Chuck Perry.
Wanted to show off the award too. Last week, 18 ladies were nominated for the Women's Community Impact Award by the Broken Arrow Chamber of Commerce at the successful Women's Luncheon. The award recognizes and celebrates the accomplishments of women who are making a significant impact in Broken Arrow through their professional careers and community involvement. I am pleased to announce that 4 of Broken Arrow's school's finest individuals were nominated. First off, Broken Arrow School Board Vice President Cheryl Kelly. If you'll please stand for us a minute. Let's give her a hand. And the Director of the Performing Arts Center, Kim Vento. If you will stand. No, both of these ladies work tirelessly to represent BA in the finest ways possible. If you go to about any community event, they are there and plugged in and serve the district very well. And next item, 2 of those 18 individuals out of the 4 that were nominated for Broken Arrow actually received this prestigious award. And first I would like to recognize Broken Arrow's first ever female superintendent of schools, Dr. Janet Dunlop. If you will stand. And then the 2018 Oklahoma State Teacher of the Year, Donna Grottle. Donna's going to need to build a new trophy case for all of her awards that she gave, or that she's received. All 4 of these ladies are a testament, I think, to the incredible employees that we have across the district working here that are not only impacting Broken Arrow schools, but also the city of Broken Arrow and the community. And we, just want to recognize them, and it's an honor to have them work here and receive these awards. So, congratulations.
Great job. Is that the trophy, Chuck?
That is.
How are they going to share that?
Awesome. This is actually Dr. Janet Dunlop's, and then Ms. Grottle's award. We heard a student accidentally hit it and knocked it over,
Oh.
broke it, but she took matters in her own hands, went directly to the chamber, and had another one ordered. So
Okay.
it will be coming.
Oh, well. I figured she could build one. Congratulations, ladies. Next item, item number 10. Miss Lori Tiger.
Good evening. In a board policy change we brought to you formally, we had asked that administrative service that was recognized by the Oklahoma State Board of Education be recognized by Broken Arrow Public Schools. This was a recruitment effort on human resources part. Whenever administrators came into the district, they would have to start at 0. That made that very difficult in many cases because they would have to give up
many days of vacation times because they would accrue at such a lower rate than what they were used to at the district we were trying to recruit them from. In the last meeting, we brought to you an amendment to Dr. Dunlop's contract to have her also be in line with the district policy, to have her years of service align with the district policy, and we ask that that be approved tonight.
Move approval. Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes. All right, next item. Item number 11, Ms. Coates.
Good evening, President Allen, Dr. Dunlop, and members of the board. I bring to you tonight a discussion, motion, and vote on motion to approve or disapprove the offer of employment to an individual to serve as the assistant principal at Sequoia Middle School with such employment subject to a mutually acceptable and fully executed written contract of employment. This individual was a graduate of Northeastern State University. She was a former teacher here in Broken Arrow as an English language learner educator. She's also been a teacher at Tulsa Public Schools as a kindergarten teacher and second grade teacher, and then most recently she was the counselor at Sequoia Middle School. We interviewed, Ms. Johnson and I interviewed 10 candidates all in one afternoon and evening, and 5 of those candidates were actually from Sequoia Middle School. So I am pleased to bring to you tonight Ms. Elizabeth Frasillo as the new assistant principal at Sequoia Middle School.
Any questions?
Go ahead and stay standing for a second.
We need to vote.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
No.
Oh,
Do I
yes.
have a motion?
Motion to accept. Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
All right.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard, Ms. Frasillo, and do you have some special guests here with you tonight?
I have my son Alex, my husband Vince, and my daughter Madeline, and my principal Michelle.
Welcome. Thank you.
Okay, item or comments from the public, we have none. Next item will be reports to the board. Ms. Dunlop.
Yes, so this evening, this is the second, I guess, installment, is what you'd call it, of our strategic plan. This evening, of course, we're doing this in sections. So this evening, we have a couple of different groups. We've got academics and then student services who are going to be presenting on that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Summers to go ahead and introduce the group.
Hi, good evening. As you might remember, it was back in September, we went ahead and presented a little bit of information on where different departments were in the strategic plan, how they were progressing toward their stated objectives. Now, of course, it's already December, and so we're bringing you, as Dr. Dunlop said, that second installment. Tonight will be on our engagement piece with our activities and athletics, as well as what we're doing in academics. And I'll just what I'll do is I'll introduce the overarching objective that they'll be talking to you about and their teams, and then they'll just kind of take it away from there. And when they're finished, I'll talk about the engagement piece. But these lovely ladies, we have Jean Brassfield, Diana Bjornson, and Miss Beth Gilbert. They'll be talking about how we're addressing academic achievement that's really focused on the college and career pathways. Okay, so Miss Brassfield, you're up.
President Allen, Dr. Dunlop, members of the board, I get the honor to present our strategic plan 1.1.1, which is one of the neatest plans because we get to involve all students in careers and how to give them an individual academic plan. And so our goal is by 2019-20, yes, to have an individual plan for all students in Broken Arrow Public Schools. And so we want to create a system where students understand their own interests, their strengths, their values, where teachers and parents can help students set those goals for the kids and to teach more about careers and what they need. Maybe they're in love with math. They don't know what career that goes with. And so maybe they hate writing. They might not want to be a journalism. And so they can kind of work towards their strengths and their love and start building on that at a young age. And maybe they won't always know in third grade what they want to be when they grow up, but it gives them a guideline, and every year they can kind of talk about those careers and do some career exploration. And so we want them to truly understand the subject and to be able to have a fulfilling career, so to be able to know the direction that they want to go. So we have a plan that we put together. Diana Bjornson was a key leader, and Beth is here to present. We had a 20-member team of admin, counselors, parents, and student on our committee. And so they put a great plan together, and they're going to kind of go over that plan. Ms. Bjornson, this is Diana Bjornson and Beth Gilbert.
Oh. Okay. Well, now I have to use it. Yeah, okay. Okay. Our individual career action plan is for all students, as Mrs. Braswell said, to develop an individual career academic plan for all of our students by the in the first full year of implementation will be like 2019-2020. And basically it's a student-driven process where as teachers and as supervisors and administrators, we will work on helping the students develop, find their own interests and their strengths and their values, and in a way that it's very fluid, where students maybe in 5th grade want to be policemen, and then as they continue on, they're going to be investigating more just different opportunities that they could have, so that as they're also looking at their course choices, those choices can support what they are interested in. And again, the fluidity is what I think is most important here, because students, we know from one day to the next, students have different interests and different lives, and so this, by giving them opportunities to investigate and to explore, that's going to make them much more prepared for when they do make those post-secondary choices. The process, basically, we have already begun some of it in pilot year 1 with BAFA and the high school, where we are providing the opportunities for students to investigate, for teachers to investigate, for administrators to investigate, so that, and parents as well, we want them to be involved in this as well. So we just want it to ensure that the process is going to be beneficial for our students, for parents, for schools, because if it's not meaningful to them, then it's just going through the process. And this is a very, I think, as the students go on and they start building their plan, their individual career action plan, they are going to have some very stable, they're very stable when they start making those decisions once they graduate.
So Ms. Bjornson has given you kind of the context, the why of what we're doing, and I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the logistics of it, what it looks like at a school site. So Navient is what we have decided, and by the way, it's pronounced Navient. Just ask a Navient representative, because I said Navient for forever until I got an education, and so this is what he this is what he said to me: think navigate. Then it's Navient. So, okay, that makes sense to me. So we decided to use that just because the high school was already implementing that in some ways, and so it really provides a course planner and a, even beyond that, interest planner, strength survey, et cetera, gives some real tangible information to students about this plan as they go forward. So you can kind of see the timeline there, August 2017, grades 9 through 12, and we are heavily into that already. The next thing, I think, is that the high school is here right now. They have developed an ICAP portal, and that's just so that high school students can begin that activity of building their individual career action plans. So I see that BAFA needs to get that going by August 2018. Okay, that won't be a problem. So I do think that portal is already up, though, for the high school. Logistically, there needs to be time during the day to do that. And so most schools, middle schools and the Freshman Academy have an advisory period. And that's generally used for enrichment or intervention for students. This is a really convenient time, at least for us, to also insert some Navient activity. And so at the Freshman Academy, we've already begun that. The students have completed an interest survey, a strength survey, and then the part I really like is that though you get a list of appropriate tasks through Navient, you can also, as educators, insert what you would like students to do with the information. So for example, our students have taken an interest survey and a strength survey, but then we kind of put a piece in about writing a reflection. So you have your interests and you have your strengths, where are you going forward? They kind of help them connect the dots. And so that advisory period is really a good time to be able to use Navient's assigned tasks, and generally they're not they don't take a lot of extra time, and we usually give students about a week to complete the task. So the plan of study is also included in that, so that they can just sort of map, as Ms. Bjornson has said, their path as they go along. So not only their classes, but their assessments, how they've done on certain things. And so if they've set out to be a neurosurgeon, but math and science are not going well, and they're not scoring well there, then maybe we get to have the opportunity to redirect them. I would also say about advisory, and this is one thing that I've heard several times at ICAP meetings, is that the importance of not only having the counselor available to kids in order to direct them. So that advisory period, when there's a teacher that they really, almost like the homeroom back in the day when I was in school, so they have somebody that they can actually talk to other than a counselor about that plan of study. Interest inventories I've already talked about a little bit. We've completed those, and so you can see the timeline of expanding that. And then career exploration is also, you can look on this list and see that many of our elementary schools already do some of these things. Career fairs, Oliver does a really great job at a career fair, but the opportunity to have people in and talk about careers, and included in that the soft skills that are missing sometimes and are so necessary. We hear that from business owners all the time, how important that is.
Okay. An additional one is that we, for the students who are at the Freshman Academy this year, we would like to add a graduation requirement that they would focus, that they would have some kind of one-on-one or some kind of one-on-one with a college career counselor or Tulsa Tech program, that they actually make a concerted effort to just make a contact. And at the high school, there's constantly colleges are in and out. We've got Tulsa Tech there several days a week, job shadowing experiences. So it's not a requirement that's going to take them out and cause any issues with students not being able to meet that requirement, but it also puts a little bit of accountability on their part, to let's talk with someone outside of the high school where they can just, even if, just have some opportunities to talk with someone besides their counselors or their teachers. And then we will also do one thing every May and December of the year. The people at the different sites, the committee members, will get together and just reevaluate our program to see where we need to make changes, improve, see what's going well, and see what we need to improve, because it is a very worthwhile plan that will benefit our students, our teachers, and our schools. So, and there's just another timeline. So any questions?
I would like to make a comment. First of all, I would like to thank you, Dr. Dunlop, and thank you for all of our instructional leaders, and certainly counselors, any individual within our schools that participates as part of this. I know that one of the things I really appreciate is going back and looking at our strategic planning. And this has evolved basically out of our strategic plan in wanting to serve our students, whether they go directly to a career or go on to college. We need to focus more specifically on our student needs, and I think we're doing a much better job. That doesn't mean that we're not having the right kinds of conversations to ensure that if new things are coming about, that we are creating the kind of opportunities that we need for our students. But I certainly know that it takes time to do this, and it takes a commitment from our staff members. But our students are the ones that are going to benefit from this. And I know maybe later on after they graduate and they reflect back, they're going to look at this Naviance, which we implemented not too long ago. And of course, we are using it more effectively every day. And I think these are the kinds of things that really service our students better. And I just want to thank you all for participating in that, and then anyone who's had a direct impact into the conversation. So thank you.
I have a question also. How are you guys able to measure the parent participation in this?
You may know more about that through Naviance.
Actually, through Naviance, they actually ask that you wait a year, that you allow students to be on it for a year and kind of make their own path before there's parent participation. I haven't mentioned that at the Freshman Academy, but yes, you are able to measure what kind of participation is available through parent.
What would you say we're at with the participation from our parents,
Percentage-wise? They know about it, and that's it. Because we've just started this particular...
No, we're not there yet?
Yeah, no, we're not there yet. We've just started this particular, the interest surveys, the strength surveys, those tasks. So we've talked a lot about it, and they're aware of it, and they know when we do it and what it's about, but there isn't interaction yet.
I think it's critical, though, that once we get to that step that we are measuring that, because you know, I've been reading in the paper these state tests are coming out.
Right.
However bad they may be, it's going to be direct reflective of they think of our school district.
Right.
But I'm curious about the parent participation, because to me that's critical in the kids' educational process, and I would like to see how many of our parents are participating, and if we have a plan or something to maximize that. I'm sure
Actually planning to enroll through Naviance in this coming season of enrollment, and so in January and February they're going to be very aware of Naviance and that plan of study. So I agree, totally.
You know, something that just struck me also is that, especially doing it during advisory time, prior to having one-to-one Chromebook, we wouldn't be able to do that. But because each student has their device, and they can immediately log into Naviance, and they have it on their Chromebook. So it's a beautiful thing.
Well, you brought up the accountability piece. I'm just going to be curious, so when we see what our parent participation rate is, because accountability is on both sides, from classroom and home. So I want to see what we're getting on this end, because I'm very comfortable what our teachers do here, so I'm just very curious about what we get on the accountability side from home. So, thank you all.
And President Allen, ironically, your questions segue very nicely into what Dr. Coates will be speaking about, and that is that transparency piece to connect parents, and then also how to involve stakeholders, because you know, if kids indicate that they want to be a veterinarian, then we have to be making the partnerships to get them in as an assistant. So Dr. Coates will speak to that.
All right, thank you. Actually, Shannon Turner was responsible for this 1.2.1 and 1.2.2, and then she has transitioned to Muskogee, and then Derek Blackburn has taken this over, but he is out sick today, so I am covering for him this evening. And I'm not going to go into the details of Naviance, but I will thank Ms. Gilbert for the lesson in the pronunciation, because I've been saying it wrong for the last year, so I appreciate that. We are, as a matter of fact, with Naviance, we are hosting our very first ICAP advisory and enrollment nights this coming spring. So in January and February, our middle schools will be hosting that, as well as the freshman academy and high school. And through this ICAP advisory night, we will have breakout sessions so that parents can explore Naviance. We can explain that to them, and that they can also enroll for their coursework, for their courses this coming school year. And what we'd like to do is, based on the interest inventories that students are taking now, students will then enroll in courses for this coming school year, and then maybe even beyond. If you know science is needed to become a doctor, you're going to take certain science courses, and you're going to plan out that you're going to map out your plan of study using Naviance. Also, with 1.2.1, it talks about outlining pathway options, and as you know, we are in the process of doing that with our visioning task force. So we are beginning those conversations right now. Our conversations are around STEM and STEAM, but we'll move to those career pathways, and we will be determining, or the visioning task force will be determining very soon those specific pathways that we would like to offer within our schools. Any questions about 1.2.1? Okay, and then I will move on to 1.2.2, and this really is about just forming a committee of stakeholders with teachers and community leaders and parents and business owners, and this committee will be established in the spring of 2018, and what they will do is this committee will review the process that we have implemented. And so they will meet on an annual basis, review the process, and then make recommendations to our instructional division moving forward. So any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one more presenter for academic achievement, and that is Jennifer Peterson, and she'll speak to how they're expanding gifted services.
Okay, good evening. So I am going to be talking about building high academic achievers and expanding our gifted services. So I'm going to speak to the elementary and secondary separately because they do look different. So we know at the elementary level, the programming completely changed from the way it was previously to this year. So part of the strategic plan was to implement the cluster model to ensure that we are meeting the needs of our gifted students and our high academic achievers. So one thing that we did feel that was very important as you're changing models is the communication piece. And so at the very end of last year, we hosted a parent gifted chat. And so during that time, we talked about what we were going to be doing. We had them fill out cards, all the questions that we have. We've compiled all the questions and the answers, and they're now on the website. It did go out to them previously through our gifted parent liaison through PTA. So right now with our committee, the committee has split into an elementary and a secondary committee, and so we are meeting every other month. And I also, by state law, we have to have a gifted advisory council, but by state law, you only have to meet one time. I thought that was silly. So I wanted to make sure that parents were kept up to date as to what we were doing. So every time I meet with the strategic planning committees, I meet with those parents after. So that way they can provide feedback, they can give us their thoughts, and that way we can tweak as we go. So for the elementary, we kind of jumped into this year implementing the cluster, and so the cluster model. I don't want to say the cluster model. So we have hired at the end of that started this year 5 academic enrichment specialists. They're fabulous. It is the most amazing team. It's 3 former gifted teachers, a former middle school special education teacher, and just a regular classroom teacher. And so the 5 of them together, they're like a little powerhouse. And so one thing that we know that is important is the ongoing professional development of our teachers, because they're learning this model also. So in September and October, they spent an entire day with the co-author of the Cluster Model Handbook. And so she walked them through basically what it looks like, how to implement it, and what to do in the classroom. And so now with the academic enrichment specialists have identified one strategy per month that they are meeting with every cluster teacher. They're implementing that strategy, and the following month they come back and they basically say what worked, what didn't work. So they have a monthly meeting with each of those cluster teachers. We also have started a PD calendar this year that we have never had before, so teachers can choose PD that is offered by the academic enrichment specialists either before school or after school, and we offer it regionally so that they don't have to drive across town to get there. We also purchased curriculum that's a project-based curriculum that each of the cluster teachers have received. We have heard very good things about the curriculum, so we're really excited about that. We have wanted to make sure that teachers have a voice through the whole time, so we have we've provided surveys so they can let us know what needs to change, what do you need, where do you need more help. We just updated the website as of last week. So now when you go to the Gifted website, there is a place for the parents to have resources, and also we're beginning to build a teacher resource page that's there as well. We also started a district newsletter. The first newsletter went on the website last week, and we are also pushing that out through Sonia Boswell, the PTA liaison. So we want to make sure that parents always have a place to continue to get that information. And a part of this, we are changing the way we are doing gifted testing. So through this process, we learned that the previous gifted identification blanket test that we were giving was about 15 years out of date. So I hate to say that out loud, but it's the truth. And also, since we don't have the number of gifted teachers we had previously, they used to basically hold themselves up in a room for 2 weeks scoring and norming the tests. So we're going to an online test next year. It will be a blanket test that we will give at the end of second grade. The beauty behind the test that we are giving, the results come back within 24 hours, and it can be used to identify strengths and weaknesses of the students. So it won't just be great for identifying the gifted kiddos. It will also help us to see how kids learn best, so that we can utilize that for all of our students. So that's basically what we are doing this year at the elementary level. Secondary, what we are doing, we're focusing on middle school, and it's been pretty exciting. I've learned a lot about the gaps that we had with communication between when a child leaves 5th grade into 6th grade. I learned that our middle schools didn't know who the identified gifted kids were. So this year, every middle school principal received a list of all of the gifted students, so they are identified. Oneida Ridge and Oliver are going to begin in January with their I&E, or their what do they call it? I'm drawing a blank. Why is it every time I get up here? Their enrichment time, they are actually going to provide one that's for gifted students. So that they will actually be an enrichment that the gifted the gifted student can choose as one of their enrichments. So it won't be you must go. And with the curriculum that we purchased, there's one out of the 5th grade that we can send to 6th grade, so it's not like they're having to create what it is that they're going to do. Also, the academic enrichment specialists have been assigned one middle school, and they have already started presenting at the middle schools the differences between the high academic achiever and the gifted learner. So we're starting to build some of that background knowledge for them. For the 18-19 school year for elementary, we're just going to continue the ongoing PD. We are going to begin with that curriculum. We want to have a regional expo so that there will be a night, kind of like a science fair, that they can come and present, and hopefully in year 1920 it will be we're hoping to do a district-wide expo like we do the art fair, or the art show, I mean. And then at the secondary, we're going to implement a secondary blanket test, because if a student moves into Broken Arrow after the year that we give the blanket test, we don't ever identify another gifted child. So we have yet to land on the year in which we're going to implement that, but that will be part of what we identify this year. And so we're going to continue the process of making sure that teachers know who the gifted kids are and building that background knowledge on how to meet the needs. For year 1920, this is kind of a work in progress as we move forward. And once we hire a partner for me, we hope that person will come on board and take over the secondary piece of it. So that's kind of where we are now. So,
Well, Ms. Peterson, I want to thank you because, boy, that's a lot of information
I'm
that
sorry, I
you just
talked
put
really
forward,
fast.
but it's all very good. And I wanted to ask a question because periodically, and this is not casting any criticism anywhere, it's just where we are as a community, because we're doing so much better communicating via through our online, whether it be social media or whether it be online where parents access it. But, interestingly enough, I had a question the other day from a parent about the pre-K program. And I said, everything pre-K is online. Well, they said, well, how do I find that? And so I just kind of schooled them on how to access it. As soon as they found it, they said, this is great.
Yeah.
This is all I need. Well, in this case, we have had some gaps as it relates to our gifted program. So you're putting forward a lot of very good information. And I know you said it's gone online. So it would be really interesting, and go ahead, you have
I was going to tell you, so at our last gifted parent chat, we have those quarterly. I told the parents, you will see a difference in our website by December the 15th. The very first newsletter you will receive by December the 15th. So I gave myself a deadline so that there would be accountability for myself. And so that is one thing. So I wanted to make sure, and then whatever we do, Sonia Boswell pushes out to all of the gifted parents as well.
I think this is really exciting, and as more and more of our parents know where to go, they can guide other parents. But anything that we can do to encourage them to go to our website, certainly we're getting more and more information there, and it's very valuable to them. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, before I introduce Mr. Perry to take over on that engagement piece, just really quickly as far as what's coming up in March, I believe Ms. Bergwall and Mr. Ptolomeo will update you all on just where we are building-wise and how we're communicating with the community and parents. And then in June, that will be the last one as far as the quarterly updates for the fiscal year, and we'll go over finance. And then at that point, many of the details with Visioning Task Force will at least be fleshing out, if not a recommendation. So that next piece on engagement is to create a culture that fosters personal relationships between students, staff, parents, and community. And so Mr. Perry is going to be introducing his team members to go over that.
I am very proud of the work my team has done over the past year, actually past 3 or 4 years. Not only do we have a duty to, I always say, make a positive impact on kids' lives through different activities. We want to win, and the last thing is we want maximum participation, as many kids involved and plugged into different areas, and I think you'll see that tonight. So our first item we have up, 2.1, we have Mr. Ellett and then Dr. Dell and Ms. Wellborn will talk about their 3 areas in athletics, fine arts, and student activities.
Thank you. Good evening. 2.1, I'm going to go ahead and these are our plans. For 2.1 is establish a plan to connect every student to co-curricular, extracurricular, or student mentoring programs. And then we have 2.1.1, develop and implement a comprehensive plan to increase engagement opportunities for all students. Some of the things that we're doing already in the athletic department that we have started this year, we have come together as a team of head varsity coaches and said, what do we want to do? And we've set a goal to have every team do at least one free clinic for elementary kids throughout the school year. And this year already, our football team loaded up 3 buses worth of high school football players. They put them all in their jerseys, and they went and visited several of the youth football practices throughout the fall. Went there, worked on techniques with them, created relationships. We think the relationship part was really a very important part of that. We also had our girls basketball team did a free basketball clinic in November. They had 81 kids attend, young ladies attend that clinic. Again, they worked on basketball skills, and every young lady left with a Lady Tiger t-shirt when they left the clinic. Boys and girls tennis has been working together, and they did a tennis clinic this fall. And again, the key part to the whole thing is getting them to work on some skills and then getting some relationships and know who our head coaches are, know who our coaches are, some of our kids are, so they are attracted to that. Swimming is in the process of planning a clinic this spring that they're going to do, and they're going to use their high school kids to help them as well and do a clinic for elementary kids and middle school kids. We've also done some additional teams this year. Broken Arrow volleyball, we added 2 7th grade volleyball teams this year, which actually added 29 more kids to their program, which went over spectacularly. They had a great year. I think they really enjoyed it. Not that this is part of this, but I think they lost 1 game between the 2 teams, and it was exciting for them. Broken Arrow girls junior high basketball. We let 7th grade girls try out for junior high basketball this year. Last year, of all of our basketball junior high teams and girls, we had a total of 31 girls. We kept every girl that tried out. This year, by allowing 7th graders to take part of that, we ended up with 40 girls playing junior high basketball, which we think is a great step in the right direction. Another thing we're trying to do is develop, and we will use Mizuni eSchool and Rank 1 is a program that we use, and we're going to try to, by 2020 and 2021, we want to try to come up with a way that we can develop a student connection tracking system where we can track our students and try to determine which ones are involved, which ones aren't involved, and in some way figure out a way to reach out to those students and get them involved, or at least try to find a way to communicate with them so they know what their opportunities are. The other part of that is that we also, on that tracking system, we want to be able to see that we have a lot of kids that are in club bowling. We have a lot of kids that are playing rugby, that are playing all kinds of different sports, and we need to know who those kids are as well. Any questions?
Good evening. The Fine Arts Department believes its strength in contributing to the goal of 100% literacy, engagement, and graduation lies in the area of engagement. If we can recruit, retain, and have the most students possible participate, then we can affect engagement. Of the approximately 9,300 kids that are 6th through 12th grade, there are currently 6,985 of those participating in a fine arts program. That's a 75% rate. Over the last 5 years, in grades 6 through 12, we have increased participation by 2,675 students. That's a 38% increase. Our SMART goal is each area of the fine arts to have a free program, concert, or clinic in which older students can demonstrate and mentor to younger students. We've identified 14 ways to enhance that engagement and address this goal. I'm only going to share 6 with you, just for time's sake. We started this year an adaptive art class. It's an art class for level 3 students in which we incorporate peer tutors along with the teacher's aides. We are this next spring going to hold visual arts weekend workshops. Those are programs for this spring that will use high school mentors mentoring middle school art students. Men's Night Out is a choir program where the high school boys mentor the middle school boys. The Visual Arts Empty Bowls program uses upper level art students to help non-art and adaptive students create bowls for that charity event. Pride's Big Brother, Big Sister program uses seniors to mentor first year Pride members. And finally, the Middle School Band Night is an evening at the high school where the middle school students go and play right alongside Pride. We believe that programs like these and others can help us increase engagement. Questions? Thank you.
Good evening. The activities department also wanted to take part in this and provide our students with an opportunity to work with their peers, especially in academics. So we've got, since October, we have a math and an English teacher on Tuesday afternoons and also Thursday afternoons right after school. We wanted to provide a place where students just, I need help in math or English or really any subject. They know exactly where to go, they know exactly what time. And we also wanted to provide peers there with them to help them with some of those topics, because what we know is that sometimes the students can explain something in a different way that helps that child understand it a little bit better. I spoke with Karen McMillan, one of our math teachers, just last week, and she said that she was working with a student, and one of the NHS students who's volunteering to help with peer tutoring approached it a little bit different way, and the light bulb went off. So it's really cool to see the connections that our kids have with the staff members that are there to help them, as well as our peer tutors. So we look to continue that throughout the rest of the semester and next semester. We're averaging, I'd say, about 8 to 10 students after school on Tuesday and on Thursday, and we expect it to only increase. They were there the second we opened the doors, and it's been pretty consistent since, so really excited about that. I'm also going to, I hope you've already switched it for me, talk about 2.2.1, and that is to create an engagement, resource, and development committee to ensure sustainability of current and future programs through staff and resources. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. What happened here? Are we missing one?
Next slide.
This is where I'm at. Okay. I'll just tell you about it. Okay, 2.2.1, create an engagement, resource, and development committee to ensure sustainability of current and future programs through staff and resources. So when I started working with Mr. Perry a couple of years ago, we talked about how we have some tremendous activities all throughout our district, elementary, middle school, and high school, but it differs from site to site, and we don't want that. We want children to be to have the access no matter what school they go to. So next semester, we're going to meet 3 times, develop a committee, and share, kind of an idea sharing meeting where we can talk about the different ideas, the different things that are working, maybe try to build that up at some of the sites that don't have as many activities for our students. So we will begin that in spring of 2018, and our goal is simply to create a more equitable environment for our students where they can access those activities no matter what site they attend.
The last slide up there. The last one has to do with engagement in a more unique way. We think of engagement of students engaged in the classroom by the teacher in the learning process. We also think about engagement in extracurricular, co-curricular activities. But we also sometimes forget about engagement with a school district, with community businesses and partnerships. And I'm really excited for Ms. Vento, Mr. Hanema, to take that lead in our strategic plan on how to increase that, not only with our larger companies in Broken Arrow, but also some of our smaller businesses. So I'm going to let them share the 2.3.
So we're part 4 of Team Perry. It's a little bit different twist like he talked about. With us being new to this idea of the strategic plan, we just got a hold of this in the end of September. And when he said we were going to do part of the strategic plan, I got a little worried. And then he gave us this, and I got super excited because I love this. So the first thing that I think, had to find out was the history of where we've been over the years as far as a partnership, a community engagement, a business relationship, a city relationship. And so, of course, we went to Jo McCord. She was our first person to talk to. Jo McCord in 1994 was given the initiative to start Partners in Education. And I did not know this, but Partners in Education was actually a national program where she was sent and trained and learned about this program and then brought it back and created it to be Broken Arrows. I knew Partners in Ed just as an employee for all these years, but didn't realize until I really talked to her and got down, and Charlie and I talked to her about really what it was and the scope of what it did and the number of people involved and the different ways they were involved. Through evolution, Partners in Ed in the last few years had kind of dissolved in the way that it was implemented and transitioned into the new One Club idea. And over the last few years, we found that the One Club has been very successful and it has done its job, but in the transition of that, we lost a lot of people that were not able to contribute large amounts of money to partner or engage in our relationships in the schools and with our students and our teachers. And so this strategic plan is the idea of taking both of those concepts and making it one strategic plan opportunity of engaging the community in relationships, not only monetarily, but through volunteer programs that people can help with their time, through opportunities with career engagement, internships, business to student, things like through our career tech, and expand on that. And also really get back to that hometown, city, people, family, school district, all coming together to engage in one idea of supporting each other. So with that, our next steps are to go and take what was Partners in Ed and the One Club and rebrand, rethink, reorganize, research, see what other school districts are doing, and create another program, probably with a new name and a new look, where we can have everything from a 2-hour test monitor to a $20,000 sponsor, and track that and thank people and connect people with our new principals. They've lost a lot of relationships with businesses that used to be school partners. Reconnect those people and take those resources and find where they fit and how people can find. I always say that a lot of people just want a reason to do something for somebody. And it might be something as simple as providing school supplies for kids, or opportunities for test monitoring, or reading to kids, or sitting and holding preschool kids and playing with them. And because there's people who are retired that would love to do that. So this program would take all those ideas, not only connect people, but also track it and expand on what we've done in the past.
Yes. What she said. Right? I think it was very apparent to us, especially to me, in my first couple of months on the job, we had a number of what I might call crisis situations, especially kind of close to each other. And what I realized was that there are so many groups and businesses that will help at the drop of a hat. We had churches donating food, we had restaurants donating food, we had counseling support from a ton of outside agencies. So part of the goal of this is to get that support 12 months a year, as opposed to, in a situation where we absolutely need help, just go through the phone book and find somebody. If we have this network and there's a paper shortage or whatever it is at Timber Ridge, they've got 3 or 4 businesses they can call, and maybe all the employees at a bank go buy a ream of paper and donate it, whatever. And then with the One Club situation, we've also found too that it's great at those big donor levels, but then you kind of squeeze some people out, like Ms. Vento was saying. You look at Rib Crib, for example, after the Mr. Anderson deal, where they were able to get $7,500 in donations in one day, and they'd love to help us out with stuff, but we need to kind of have a middle ground to where it's not necessarily a massive check for some of these tweeners, if you will. And then with that too, we're also developing some ways, some more creative ways for sponsorship and partnership opportunities that I kind of have called a la carte sponsorship kind of things, where maybe you don't want to be in the One Club, but you'd really like to be involved in this. So how can we set up a program to where we're tracking that, we're thanking you and supporting that? I don't want to give away a ton of my ideas because we haven't priced them yet, but if you're interested, call me, we'll hook you up. Dr. Dale is trying to sell 150 go-karts, so we might have a go-kart race and sell naming rights to that. So, we're just exploring all of our options, and right now we have a good team, and hopefully by this summer we can kind of hit the streets with, here's what we have, how can you help, and do you know anybody else that can help? Questions?
Well, I want to make an overview comment. There's a lot been talked about here in the area of student services, and obviously we set forth several years ago this engagement piece, and we have seen firsthand how our engagement has increased significantly, and it's benefited our students tremendously as well. But I want to thank certainly Mr. Perry, your passion for engagement. We wouldn't be where we are right now today without that, and certainly without every staff member. I know within the reports, various ones talked about the increase in engagement. Not only that, but we're looking at here, the overview, looking at the history and going back and trying to determine if we can do it better. And we're open to change. And that is so important when you're an organization and when you're really vying to do the right thing for kids and the right thing for those that work within the organization. So again, kudos to everyone that's a part of that, and I can't say enough thank yous to each of you for the work that you do.
Thank you.
All right, next item will be Ms. Tiger. So to be short.
Very short. Obviously, we are not in session, but we thought that it was worth noting tonight that Governor Fallin has called a second special session that will convene on December 18th after vetoing the vast majority of the last attempt at funding the budget shortfall. We wanted to mention that she is urging a permanent funding solution to the teacher raise that was passed. We're cautiously optimistic that they will find a way to make that happen. We're also going to very closely be watching and tracking a bill that is being written right now by Representative Nolan and Stanislavski to fully fund concurrent enrollment, which would be a major victory for Broken Arrow schools and all schools in Oklahoma, Tulsa County.
Ms. Tiger, have you heard anything on the consolidation bill that's been being thrown around?
No, and there's so many different versions still being thrown around that we'll be tracking all education bills this session very closely.
My question would be, I know that as we got within the special session, we didn't have a lot of communication from our representatives. I know we're doing all we can to reach out to them.
Yes.
And certainly after the break, we're going to still have our governmental breakfasts in the mornings, but keeping a very close eye and in somewhat of a unified way with our regional superintendents, making certain that we're always communicating with them, whether they're really doing anything or not. Of course, that doesn't dictate our response. I think we need to be very proactive.
Agreed, and I feel like our professional organizations do a very good job of sending out alerts and activating everyone very quickly to mobilize on that. Thank you.
All right. Next item, Ms. Enif.
Good evening. I have the pleasure to present our 2016-17 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report and Annual Audit. The CAFR is really the culmination of our financial reporting season, if you will. We start in July with the estimate of needs and our state FR3 tape and the annual operating budget, and then finally the CAFR. And I just want to reiterate that the CAFR is really the highest level of financial reporting a school district can do. Kathy Mitchum is really the leader and the brains behind that very large 129-page book that you all have at your seat tonight. She puts an immense amount of research and technical expertise into getting this report done, and it's thanks to her effort that we are able to present this very prestigious report to the board and to our public. This is our 5th year in doing the CAFR, and it has received awards in the past from GFOA and ASBO, but that's really not the reason why we chose to do it. The awards and the accolades are nice, but really this was our effort to, in our most transparent way possible, to show our public and community what we do with our financial resources, and so they have full faith in us that we are doing everything we can fiscally responsible. So with all that being said, Jenkins and Kemper performs our annual audit. This is the 2nd year they have been with us doing our audit, and we're very thankful and grateful for their guidance in looking over everything that we do in the business office. And so at this time, I would like to invite Jay Jenkins up to go over some of the financial highlights.
Good evening. There's still a few people here, you know. Usually clears out whenever people leave in droves, whenever the auditor gets up to speak, because it's like, don't want to talk finances. Sitting out in the audience last hour, I know y'all really have a passion for instruction, curriculum. When I was here 24 years ago, I knew that, I always knew that because I had to attend 2 meetings a month, and I'd have my little segment about purchase orders and everything, but you sit there hours on end hearing about how passionate the principals were at the schools, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, everybody at the school seemed to be so focused on teaching the kids. But just as passionate as you are about that, Natalie and Kathy do just a wonderful job on the finances, so you're in really good hands with them. To put things into perspective, today I was reviewing an audit that we're presenting later in the month, and it was one of those dependent schools, 32 pages long. This is 129 pages. I was going to say 130 pages, but Natalie had like a non-discrimination policy at the end, so we won't count that page. But still, a CAFR is very detailed, as you would imagine, and I'm not going to go over all the financial pages that it covers, but it is quite a monumental task, not only to get it done, but in the short time span that they've gotten this done. And it's almost like a ballet of trying to get the numbers together, then call Jay, and then we'll talk about it, and we'll come out and do a visit initially to you basically got 3 sets of financials here. You've got one set that's just on the budgetary basis. It's what I'm most familiar with all the other schools. I think there's just only a couple other public schools that we do. We don't even do CAFRs to this extent, but we do gap-based financials for a couple others. There's not many in the state. But for most of our schools, they do the budgetary basis. And then there's a second set of financials in here where you add the receivables, the payables, the inventory, and then there's finally, you put it all together, you add the fixed assets, you anything that has future value, you obviously put in the fixed assets, depreciate it over the life of the asset. You set up your long-term debt, set up that wonderful thing we call pension liability, and all of that. It gets extremely. It can be confusing at times, but it gets very detailed, and so all of this. On top of all of this, one other thing that's unique with Broken Arrow schools is they prepare it all themselves. Most of the schools that I deal with, they give me the numbers, but I put it all into a format. But I was taken aback like a year and a half ago when I think I initially had talked to Dwayne, and he said, well, all you need to do is provide the independent auditor report. And I was like, what? Just 2 pages of a 129-page report? That's not much. But, we do have the responsibility to issue an opinion on these financials. And so we still have the responsibility to look at everything in this and then issue our opinion. Let me turn to that page where we have the page 25 of the report. And I don't know if you have that in. But page 25 is just the independent auditor's report, and it goes over what management's responsibility is, which is to prepare the financial statements, which they have. And then our responsibility is to issue an opinion on whether those financial statements are free of material misstatement. And we have in close to the bottom of the page, on page 25, it says, under opinions, in our opinion, the basic financial statements referred to above present fairly in all respects. The respective financial position of the government activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the Broken Arrow School District as of June 30, 2017, and the changes in financial position for the year then in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So this is a clean opinion on generally accepted accounting principles. So there's only a couple schools that I deal with that get a clean opinion on gap-based financials. All the other schools, they have a modified opinion which says, well, you don't include your fixed assets, so you can never have an unqualified opinion like Broken Arrow has right here. You have a qualified opinion, and it's not on generally accepted accounting principles. It's on a statutory, a prescribed basis of accounting that's adopted by the State Department of Education. So it's completely different. But even with this CAFR, it's twice as many pages as our second largest school. Even though they're the same size as you, it's to do a CAFR, it's just twice as many pages. So there is a lot of information here, and it's gathered together for the December meeting. So there's a short time span to get this done and audited, and so here it is. Okay, so I just wanted to cover a few things. Page 44, or we'll go backwards. There's three different kinds of funds. You have fiduciary funds, and previous to the notice of the financial statements, it's just covered on one page. The reason why it's so brief is fiduciary funds are funds that are held by the school district, but they're really held for somebody else. And so you have agency funds, which is what you know as your activity funds. And at year end, you had about $2.7 million that related to all the activity funds for all your school sites, and that was set aside for student groups. So we don't show any of the value of the school there because we set all that cash aside for all of their fundraising activities. Anything that they had at June 30th of 2017, that's going to be set aside for the new year and to go towards those activities and field trips and what have you in this fiscal year. Also, there was a private purpose trust fund. There was about $85,000, and that was held for scholarships. All right. Then there was proprietary funds. That's the second type. Pages 51 through 53 go over the proprietary fund. And proprietary fund is like a business type entity. Like your child nutrition fund is run like a business. Although it gets subsidized by state and federal funds quite a bit, it still has the mannerisms of a proprietary fund, and so that's why it's set up there. And so at year end, you had a net position of a little over $5 million. Once again, these financials include the fixed assets related to that, to the child nutrition. Anything that was like you go buy a stove and it has future value, then it gets put on the depreciation schedule just based on how many years asset life and maybe the cost of it will determine whether it goes on the fixed assets or not. Page 49 and 50, this is just the budgetary basis. Like I mentioned, this has the general fund and the building fund, so it shows you how the school did strictly on a cash basis set of financials. This is what's reported to the State Department of Education. They call it the OCAS report. Used to be the FR3. I don't know if they even use that term anymore. I think the state joked about it being the artist formerly known as FR3 report. Kind of like Prince, but I didn't think it's funny either. But so page 49 and 50, this is the budgetary basis, and then moving into the other pages, we add in the receivables, payables, accrued wages, inventory, and that gets us to the governmental funds, and they include all the funds, break it down between major and non-major funds. And then finally, that's in the statement of activities and statement of net position, that's when they gap it up. They take all of the financials, all the funds, they take the total amounts for those that are on the modified cash basis with the receivables and payables and the accrued wages, inventory, and then they factor in the fixed assets, the net pension liability, the your bond indebtedness, amortizing. Let me cheat here. Amortizing the bond issuance amounts over the life of the bond, things like that. So it gets in just a lot more detail than just the original budgetary basis. And so with that, like I'd mentioned earlier, these financials were free and material misstatement, and you received a clean opinion. I guess lastly, your statement of activity shows the net position beginning and ending, and there was about a $27 million increase. Went from 68 million to 95. So pretty good increase. And some of that you have control over and some you don't. When dealing with the pension liability, for instance, you're retrieving all that information straight from another report that is taking the total state pension costs. I think it went from 101,000 to 101 million to 137 million. And that was just on Broken Arrow's portion, but that was all just, I think, Broken Arrow's portion of the whole state was like 1.66%. And so we had to calculate it based on that. And so those numbers get plugged in there. And like I said, you really have no control over that. But, and then in addition to that, we also have reports on the single audit, which is it's an extension of the audit, but we test the major federal programs. What we do is we determine which are your major awards. That depends on what's high risk. If you have nothing that is high risk, then it depends on if it's been tested recently. So we try to rotate those around and make sure that all of your major federal programs are tested in the last 3 years. So there were no findings on that. And on your report on compliance and internal controls, there were no findings on that. So overall, just across the board, a clean report, nothing really to report on. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I think there was a form that the board's supposed to sign. Do they have that to sign? Awesome, because I didn't have it with me. Okay, so if you have any questions on this.
No. Just means we have a A+ on our financial report.
Yeah, A+. I put a star at the top if I had a stamp.
Yeah.
This is an action item, so any questions or?
Move approval.
We got a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Alrighty. My next item is a presentation and discussion of our PAFR, which is the Popular Annual Financial Report. And once again, I get the pleasure of being up here and presenting this item, but really want to recognize the hard work that our communications team did on this. This is, if you will, a revamped annual report with just a little bit more financial information to where we could name it and deem it the PAFR. Obviously, you just heard about the CAFR, which is a very detailed financial report. The PAFR is really meant to reach our audience that just kind of wants a surface level glance at where the district is in terms of its financial health, along with boasting about all of the great things that are going on in Broken Arrow. So our communications team took this on with us to do for the first year, and Christina Dixon and Josh Seymour are both here in attendance tonight, and really just wanted to recognize their hard work. I'm sure you all have a copy of the report, and it is just beautiful. We could not be more proud of how our very first report turned out. And again, like the PAFR is for our community. It's for our patrons to get to see all of the great things that go on in our district, and also have a small glimpse into how we operate financially behind the scenes. So we are very proud that this is our very first year producing the report. It ties into our strategic plan, and again, I just cannot thank the amount of work and dedication that our communications team put into this effort.
Well, I want to make a point on this too. There's so much good news here this evening, and I certainly think this is going to be of great benefit to our parents and our community. The other thing is, as usual, which we do, we post this also online for our patrons to see, and I think this is our first year, and it's only going to get better, but certainly I appreciate all the information that's within this document as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Natalie, I also want to say that, it takes pretty much of a CPA to be able to wade through the CAFR, but what I appreciate about this is that, especially in tough financial times when we keep saying we're struggling, it's oftentimes hard for just a parent or someone at home that has no idea how schools are funded. This is amazing because it really breaks down where the funding sources come from and how they can be used, and it's so easy to explain. And again, communications, you knocked it out of the park by taking something that's very complicated, but breaking it down using visuals so that anyone can understand it.
And this is another one of those transparency pieces that we've been talking about, so I think it's great.
I believe Broken Arrow is the first district to produce this type of report, so we're very excited about that. And the awards and the accolades are nice, but really we do this report to build trust and faith within our community.
Natalie, you may have said it, but are these going to be mailed out to people?
They are not being mailed out, but they are available in the enrollment center, at school sites, Central and Main, on the website, through social. So we're pushing it hard.
Mr. Allen asked a really good question. I wanted to just kind of expound on that. From the building site level, I would assume that building principals would be aware of this, and they may be able to communicate this out at the site level if parents were interested. It's just another way of us reaching out and making sure that they understand and know it's there.
Right. We hope that this is really a recruitment tool into Broken Arrow, and people can see all the great things that happen within our district. And with a district of our size, it's sometimes overwhelming to we've got fine arts, athletics, all the great things, but that book really presents it all in a nice, neat, tidy package, and it's just really, it's a testament to the great community and district that we have here.
Very
Thank
well
you.
done. Thanks. Next item, Mr. Ptolomeo, number 17.
Good evening, President Allen, Dr. Dunlop, members of the board. I'm here to give the quarterly construction update. So we've, in 2015, we passed the bond, and we've been pretty hot and heavy on phase one since then. Since we've passed the bond, we have completed almost all of phase one. These are current projects that we have under construction. The high school addition is no longer under construction, but I didn't present it last time, so that is why it's on here. Timber Ridge, this is last, yeah. Sorry, guys. You're fine. All right, here we go. This is the list of all the projects we've completed in phase one, and then this is the list that's under construction. All of the projects in phase one are either finished or currently being constructed. and Timber Ridge, Sequoia Middle School, and then the high school edition we completed in October, which was 2 weeks early. We moved in over fall break. It included an entrance making the front of the field house ADA compliant, an entry into a common space over on the east side, 11 science rooms, 5 of them were labs, an eating and common space, a serving line and concession stand. We were able to combine these 2 spaces to make them more practical and usable for both child nutrition and whoever's using the concession stand. We completely redid the south parking lot with a full drainage system, and there are no potholes in the back parking lot, which is a pretty big deal. And as of today, we have completed the Kirkland Activities Complex. They got the certificate of occupancy for the auditorium this afternoon, and we got the certificate of occupancy for the 2 turf fields last week. So we have moved in there, and this is the sign that kind of leads into the activities complex. The auditorium, we've added carpet, we've painted everything, we've redone some seating, we've bettered the acoustical ceiling grid in there, and redid all the bathrooms to make them ADA compliant. The soccer field, this is the entrance into the 2 turf soccer field. And then bottom left picture is when we gave the coaches a tour, and they are currently using those soccer fields. The freshman academy is still under construction. It will have a net add of 11 classrooms, a new media center, admin wings, and we are almost done with brick. We are complete with all the glazing, which means we are watertight, and we have started sheetrock on the inside. We're almost done with the mudding and taping. All in-wall rough-in is complete. Overhead mechanical, electrical, and plumbing is going on and nearing completion. And then the Performing Arts Center is almost complete as well. All we really lack is 7 partition walls that in the flex space. And we are on to starting to talk about phase 2 and start with that stuff. And there's my little man. Do you guys have any questions?
I was able to tour well, not tour, but I went into the gymnasium. They had a tournament, and all of that was very nice, and seemed to service people really well, so that was great. And all of the progress that's going on has been great to see.
Well, thank you. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you. Next item is the consent items 18 through 63. Discussion?
Move approval 18 through 63.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Miss Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes. Next item 64, Dr. Dunlop.
Yes, this item has been brought to you from the EDC, or the Economic Development Corporation Board. It's a recommendation to approve Dr. Steve Tiger, who is the CEO of Tulsa Tech, as a board member on the EDC board. This has to be approved not only through our chamber, but also through our local Board of Education. So I'll turn that over to you for discussion.
Any discussion? Entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Miss Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes. Next item 65, Ms. Tiger.
Last board meeting, we saw the conclusion of our policy council meetings, and we brought you the first read of all of their recommendations for first semester, and today we ask that we vote on those to bring those into policy.
Discussion. Entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Thank you.
No voting button.
Do you have them now?
Not yet.
What's the wording?
You have them? You broke it.
So school it.
You still don't have them?
No, we can do a manual on that.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one.
Yeah.
That's fine. Next item, 66, Ms. Birdwell.
Good evening, President Allen, Dr. Dunlop, members of the board. I bring to you tonight the surplus of the property behind Aspen Creek Elementary and Aspen Creek Early Childhood Center. If you recall, last year we made an agreement with the city to swap that parcel of land with a parcel of land they have out at the events park. We plan on doing that this spring after the city has paid off their property out at the events park. And so the next step is to declare our property as surplus, and then we'll be able to swap that land when they're ready to pay their property off and make that swap.
Ms. Birdwell, is there anything like a value there? I mean, is there any freestanding structures or anything there? Or?
No, the only thing that is actually on the property is the sewer lift station, which we do want to make sure that they take in the swap so that they will maintain that for us.
Any questions? Entertain a motion.
Move approval. Second.
Motion second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes. Next item, 67, Ms. Enoff. You're gonna be tired of talking about the money, aren't you?
Okay, the financials as at the end of November, you can see in state aid, we're still down a little bit from where we were last year. Obviously, we're monitoring very closely where we will be put at midterm when we come back to school in January. The good news is last week, I believe the state treasurer came out and said that revenues had continued to be up from where they were last year, 12.5%. It's very unlikely at this point, of course the State Board of Equalization has not met yet, that we will be in a revenue failure situation like we were last year. However, the state has still not addressed how they're going to fill that $800 million shortfall that they're trying to correct, which is why Governor Fallin called the second special session. So the other good news for us will be in January we'll get our ad valorem money, which obviously accounts for a huge portion of our revenue budget. And our state sources have come in. We weren't exactly sure if we were going to receive ACE remediation and RSA funds, but those allocations did come in late this fall. Again, in building fund, our ad valorem will greatly increase the revenue in this fund. And child nutrition, we're on track with where we were with our local and federal collections last year, and we'll receive our state claim in January to complete that source of revenue. Our expenditures are, with all things considered, with the approval of all staff receiving their step and the opening of another school site this year, all in all, we're doing pretty well. Again, anytime you open a building, there are fixed costs associated with that, and that is one of the things that we considered this summer when we were looking at our budget going into 17-18 and where we needed to make cuts and reductions. And in building fund, again, you'll see the impact that adding square footage does. We're up a little bit in some of our utilities and purchased property services. Synergistic is partnering with us, as you know, to help us fine tune and find energy cost savings where they can. And child nutrition, again, they're extremely self-sufficient, and we're very lucky that they cover all of their own expenses in terms of personnel and food and material costs.
Ms. Enoff, what's the major reason for that increase in those property services?
Increased square footage, rates changing, just a variety of factors on that. Our building fund, obviously has a very limited stream of revenue in it with ad valorem money. We do pay some salaries out of that fund, and we're always looking for ways that we can legally transfer funds from general fund to building fund to alleviate some of that. But again, it's kind of a double-edged sword because it is such a small fund. We don't want to overload it too much, and maintenance and plant operations, our custodial services, their operational budgets are out of our building fund, and obviously they have quite a heavy burden placed on them to maintain all of our square footage, so building fund is utilized for that.
So it looks like your salaries are down, but your property services are up.
And our salaries, like I said, is kind of a moving target. That's just, I monitor that to make sure we're not at our tipping point for cash flow. Again, we're operating off of our fund balance for building fund till our January ad valorem money comes in. So we continue to look at salary replacement in building fund. And our fund balance percentage, you'll notice the 2017 amount has been changed to what was reported in the CAFR and just approved tonight as part of the annual audit. Are there any other questions I can answer?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, 68, Ms. Dolahan.
Good evening. Excuse me. I'm here to give the Treasurer's report as of the end of November. Our cash balance report shows a total of $29,211,000 in assets for the district. Included in this figure are district investments that total $21,290,000. Our fund security and deposit report shows a total of $30,057,000 in collateral pledged to the district. Our deposits that require collateral total $18,807,000, leaving an available balance of collateral in the amount of $11,249,000.
All right. Questions?
I'll go on to the activity funds.
Okay. 69.
Receipts at the end of November total for the year are $3,974,000. Disbursements total $2,944,000, leaving an ending cash balance in our activity funds of $3,797,000.
All right. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, 70, Ms. Medavalis.
I can read all these individually if you want me to.
You're on the clock.
You have encumbrance orders in your materials reflecting orders totaling $793,287.80 across all funds, and I recommend your approval of those encumbrance orders.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes. Next item.
Second item is our change order report. We show change orders reflecting a decrease of $113,233.83, and I would request your approval of those change orders.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item, new business. We have none. 73, move to executive session, discuss real property.
Move to go into executive session.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes. Thank you.